Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Madam President, at the outset, I wish to extend the appreciation of the federal government of Somalia to the briefers, the SRSG, Ambassador Swan, and SRCC, Ambassador Madera, Chair of the National Independent Electoral Commission, Ms. Halima Ibrahim, and the Chair of the non-state actors, Mr. Usman Muallim. Together, their insights give us an overview of the significant progress that Somalia continues to make, and their work is contributing to the vision of Somalia's future that has been clearly set out by the federal government of Somalia. This vision was endorsed and strongly supported at the Somali Partnership Forum convened by the federal government of Somalia with its partners in Mogadishu on the 1st and the 2nd of the month of October of 2019. The forum was an important opportunity to set out the federal government's reform agenda, the significant progress that has already been achieved, and to secure partner support for the remaining challenges. We now have an agreed direction for the coming year, and Somalia's priorities are very clear. We intend to conclude the constitutional review process, to continue preparations to hold one-person, one-vote elections in the last quarter of 2020. Furthermore, we are defeating the terrorist groups, al-Shabaab, through offensive operations led by the Somali National Army, as we strengthen our security institutions and processes to support our security forces and protect our people and territories. We are a step closer to meet the ambitious benchmark in the 4th IMF staff monitoring program in early next year, and we continue to build Somalia's resilience to weather events, both drought and flooding, while improving social services for all Somalis. Madam President, this is a bold reform agenda, but the federal government of Somalia is fully committed to achieving it with the support of our partners. We urge all partners to redouble their efforts to help us reach these objectives and to align their support to these agreed priorities. The federal government of Somalia recognizes that our goal will not be met without the cooperation and the engagement of federal member states. They are a vital component of the governance in Somalia, and it's essential that we work in partnership in the national interest. President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo and federal government of Somalia are currently engaged in the dialogue with all federal member states and expect as an agreed blueprint to advance the national interests of Somalia. We are committed to ensuring that all federal member states play their part and urge our partners to support us in holding the leadership of each member state accountable and contribute to the Somalia of the future, not to the past. This means undertaking genuine reconciliation efforts and holding fair, transparent, and inclusive elections, not only in the federal level, but also in the federal member states level. Where electoral process does not meet those criteria, the federal government of Somalia will not recognize the outcome and the so-called our partner, and we so-called also our partners. We are working to overcome past practices of electoral interference and influence over the independent bodies appointed to administer elections. Therefore, despite ongoing political disagreement, we call our partners to continuously support the National Electoral Commission in its all necessary technically and financially to implement the agreed critical benchmarks like the voter registration, and thus becoming a step closer to reaching the promise of 2020-21 elections. To build trust in the government, we must hold the federal and state levels of the governments to higher standards of conduct than in the past, and falling back to all destructive ways has certainly no place in Somalia's bright future. We are making significant progress in laying foundations for more inclusive and transparent governance. In Galmudug, reconciliation efforts are ongoing, and we are working with all stakeholders to ensure that communities are fairly represented and that elections can be held from a unified Galmudug administration. In Jubaland, the federal government of Somalia is engaging and the IC, international community, and all stakeholders of Jubaland, including members of the authorities to also find a way forward and allow people of Jubaland the same opportunities for an inclusive, forward-looking state administrations. The federal government of Somalia continued to make preparations for holding a one-person, one-vote elections in the last quarter of 2020. To do this, we are committed at the SPF to pass electoral law by the end of December in 2019, and to conclude the review of the Constitution by June 2020. Just yesterday, President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo has met with two of Somalia's former presidents, His Excellency Sheikh Sharif Sheikh Ahmed and His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud. The President is also meeting this coming Saturday, which is tomorrow, all other political parties and other peaceful opposition leaders. The unity of purpose and the leadership shown by President Mohamed Farmajo is convening this former head of states and also meeting with other opposition leaders sends a strong signal of Somalia's commitment to truly historic democratic election next year. Madam President, Somalia also continues to make strides to strengthening security. Operations have continued in Lower Shabelle in order to better protect Mogadishu and forming part of a strategic Mogadishu security plan. For the first time, the Somali National Army is capable of holding around and can successfully repel vicious Al-Shabaab attacks. We pay tribute to AU and our AMISOM colleagues who fight alongside the Somali security forces and extend our sincere thanks to the troops and police contributing countries of AMISOM who demonstrate every day their solidarity in our fight against terrorism. Another significant step in this direction was the passing of anti-corruption bill signed in law by President Farmajo in September this year. This form is part of a wider package of reform designed to tackle corruption and to ensure that funds are not diverted from urgent national priorities. In order to fund these priorities, in October, the Cabinet approved a budget of $350 million for the year 2019-2020. This rise in revenue is due to fiscal reform and to the Somali's population worked with the government to collect taxes. 55% of the budget will be financed by internal revenue sources, while the deficit will be financed by donor support, representing another significant step on Somalia's path to self-sufficiency. As we build on these reforms, we are working steadily toward the decision point on debt relief in early 2020, and we count on all our partners to support us in this important milestone for Somalia. Madam President, despite our energetic efforts, Somalia continues to face significant challenges, and no more so in the face of severe weather events. The rains experienced across central and southern Somalia have brought destruction and devastation to hundreds of thousands of people. The federal government of Somalia responded with emergency support and relief efforts, but in parallel, we are putting in place measures that will enable Somalia to build resilience to deal with future events of this kind. Infrastructure, water management, and management of water economy are critical components of this strategy, and the federal government of Somalia is committed to addressing not only the immediate needs of those impacted by the floods, but the long-term needs of Somalia to cope with severe weather events in the future. Therefore, we emphasize the importance of the nexus between humanitarian and the development assistance. To conclude, Madam President, significant sustainable change, especially in the complex process of state building, takes place in a steady rhythm of incremental progress. The briefers today have set out to you how the change is taking place on the ground. We are cognizant that it might be seen as not fast enough or not immediate enough, as the numerous obstacles remain. But with the strong commitment of the federal government of Somalia and the people of Somalia and the continued support of our partners, we'll continue to overcome them one step at a time. I thank you, Madam President.